Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Awesome. So one little side note for everybody, I did drop in the comments, if you don't mind and you like what we've been doing, a link for our Google reviews. If you haven't done one and you would be willing to do that for us, it would definitely greatly help the team out. So if you don't mind doing that, but getting back to what we're talking about tonight, let's talk about what's going on in the industry. We know a lot of our MLSs have started to implement the changes. A couple of them are still lingering, but those are going to happen within the next couple of days. So, and I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about as far as the new agreements, as far as the way the commission is going away on the MLS. You still have the right to get paid, but we all know that it's going away on the MLS, and just a little bit about the business is going to change a little bit, but it doesn't change the way we do business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who has a concern about what's happening? Who's nervous about this? You're good there, Daniel? Okay. Ellie?
All good here.
Okay.
We're
Martha?
new to the industry, so that's why for us this change. We just came in with the change, so for us
Right.
this is going to be our new thing.
Yep. Martha, you have some concerns?
Oh, I was just watching our local news and they had a big blurb on it with our NAR representative here in Jacksonville about how it's going to affect new buyers because they've never done this before, especially if they have agents that don't understand what's going on. But it almost put more fear in buyers than encouraged that it was good for the system. So I was kind of at a loss as to why they put that one on the news and something instead of something more encouraging.
Martha, that's very astute of you to pick that up. That's yeah.
Why would the news put that on the news like that it's going to be harder for home buyers?
Because it's news.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The news, they make their money off of keeping you scared and glued to that news station. I know when I've listened to the news for too long because I start to get irritated, right? Like I'll listen to my news in the morning, and every now and then, so like depending on how it works, right? I have it on my phone, on my car, so that I get my blurb from the time I leave till the time I get here, typically, right? So I have that little window. But every now and then I may put it on my phone and I'll have my earpiece in, blast, just playing the news in the background in my head. And after a while, I start to get irritated and I realize that it's the news going. And it doesn't matter what they're saying. It's all about the gloom and doom, right? If you ever look and they have what they call a puff piece, right? And that's something, that's going on good in a community. How long does that piece last? It's typically 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and then it's gone because that doesn't sell airtime, right? So, and I'm glad you brought this up, Martha, because this is actually one of the most exciting things about this, right? You have people right now running around screaming, "Oh, the sky's falling, the sky's falling. This is happening, that's happening. I can't get paid." I actually got a call last night from a gentleman that I know. He's not a realtor, but he's in the industry, right? He sent me a Facebook message and he asked to talk because he was concerned. He's a veteran, right? And he's been in the business for, I think, 9 years, okay? And he's like, "Dude, I'm trying to buy a house." He says, "How am I going to buy a house with this stuff going on?" And this is a guy that's directly connected to our industry. But the way he's connected, he's not getting the updates or the education. So we spent about close to an hour on the phone last night going over the different options and some other stuff. But this is your opportunity to get out there and create the value for your brand, yours, Martha Glocker, the realtor of Jacksonville, all the other realtors out there that are saying and doing stupid things. Martha's there to pick up the mess. Does that make sense?
And part two is agent attracting, because you're going to lead
Mhm.
by example. Your hair is not on fire. It's not doom and gloom. This is, you take it in stride, and they're going to be like, wow, Martha, how do you know all this? You're like, I don't know, my broker told me, my team lead told me, my Sherry told me. And you're going to be like, didn't yours? And you know what the answer is? No.
I have talked with people from different brokerages and all over the place that are not paying attention. I spoke to a broker yesterday.
Yeah.
I spoke to a broker yesterday that was not aware of what was going on. I don't know how that happened. Okay. And this is a broker.
Kill
Okay.
me now. Just kill me.
All right. I mean, it, there is just bad stuff that's out there, and the news will dwell on it because it sells. It sells. It just does. Right. And that's what keeps us glued. If we all remember, when COVID hit, and every one of us was glued to the TVs, no matter where you were in the world, you were glued to the TV as you watched this pandemic move across the world as it engulfed everybody. Right? There's not a single person in the world that wasn't affected by COVID. Right? And they bled that dry for the ratings. Right? And that's what they do. So, Martha, I know I kind of went off on a little tangent, but you kind of kicked the hornet's nest with that one. But does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I was shocked that it was so doom and gloom that it's, they said for the longest time they used 5 or 6% so that the seller was going to have to come out of pocket. And I'm just going, oh my gosh. I was shocked at what they said. And it was a Washington correspondent that was also adding to it.
Oh, without a doubt. There was somebody on the I forget who it was, and they were pretty well known. Oh, it was a New York, one of the bigger New York brokers, and he was going on about the affordability for new, first time home buyers and stuff. But I want to keep something in perspective. Now, for the most part, I'm pretty sure that most of you guys are younger than I am, right? But and if you're not, but we remember the houses that we bought, our first house, right? Martha, what was the first house you bought?
I bought my first house in 1978 for $18,000.
Yeah, but what was it? What kind of house?
It was a 2-1 above ground. It had the crawl space because we were in Atlanta.
Okay. So your first home was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. About approximately how large was it?
Oh, it was barely 1,000 square feet.
Okay, so under 1,000 square feet. Now here's where the biggest part of the problem is: our expectations, right? Somewhere along the line, we went from a starter house being a 2-bedroom, 1-bath to it's got to be a 3-2 with a pool and a yard and a fence. Yeah, I understand. I mean, if you want to have the same house that your parents live in, we're setting the wrong expectations. So one of the conversations that I always have when somebody's complaining about the affordability is, let's look at what you really need. What you need, you may want this over here. We all want whatever this is over here. But what we need is the vehicle that's going to get us there, right? If I buy that 2-bedroom, 1-bath house and I buy it, I pay on it, I knock the mortgage down, I get a little bit of equity. Now all of a sudden I get that's equity that I can use towards the next house, right? Or if I feel super ambitious, I can turn that 2-1 into a rental. 2-1s rent. I mean, they're great rentals. Right now, all of a sudden you have passive income, right? But our expectations have changed. Right. And that's the whole thing with this lawsuit, right? The expectations are changing, right? Oh, the nobody's going to pay the buyer's commission anymore. Okay. One, you're wrong, right? Because it's still in the seller's best interest to offer compensation to attract the buyer's agents. Right? Can we agree on that? Does anybody think it hurts the seller to offer a commission for the agent? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's going to benefit the seller by offering that compensation, whatever that compensation is. We see that now. I mean, right now, my short sale is staying put. Buyers aside, even though they are not moving in, they are going to rent it out. Expectations. Yeah. Okay. So now they're going to rent out. So Heather is dealing with a potential short sale situation, and now they're going to rent it out. Right. Wait until the value catches up. Right. It's all about setting up the proper expectations. Now that they're willing to do it, they can protect themselves from foreclosure. But that's a whole other can of worms for right now. So.
No, I'm sorry, Chris. I just want to talk with my voice. No, I have the listing, and the listing, the buyers are moving to Naples, so they're not going to buy it to me. You know what? I can't talk. I'm
Don't
sorry.
worry about it. Heather, I wasn't trying to get you to talk. Calm down.
No, it's the dogs. It's the dogs barking. But no, what I was saying is that the buyers are moving to Naples, so they don't want the house to buy now to move in, but they decided because it was such a great deal that they're going to purchase it and they're going to rent it out.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty cool.
That's why I was saying expectations, but obviously I couldn't get it through.
Yeah, no, you're good. I misread what you were saying. But I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that was somebody planning on buying a house and they still see the value of purchasing it anyway and turning it right into a rental. So that's pretty awesome. Right. But this is all about expectations. And when we're out there with our clients, and I know right now a lot of us are getting these questions, it's all about setting these expectations. I actually think that, and I believe that this is going to make us stronger. We're going to lose agents along the way. We've already discussed this. It's happening. It has happened in the past, regardless of this, right? I kind of like it, actually. When I'm sitting with an agent, if you remember the old listing agreements, it said X amount of commission here, and then X amount of commission was being subtracted from this, and that's going to the buyer's agent, right? So it almost looked like you were paying like almost 9-10%, depending on what it was. You add them together. Well, now it's very clear, X amount goes here, X amount goes off to the buyer's agent, right? So it's not as hard of a hit. And when somebody asks you, how much do you charge? You get to say legitimately, here's what I charge. Now here's why you want to pay extra. Does that make sense? Shari, you look like you got something to say. You're muted. Definitely muted.
Sorry, I know you're not used to that. No, I was getting a call from Israel, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna let it go. I'm like, Chris is more important. So I was looking like, is that EIL? So sorry.
Well, just so you know,
but
if I get a call from Israel, I am jumping because that is most likely my one seller, and he's got a lot of properties to sell.
yeah,
So.
this is my old business partner. No, but the other thing is, I love the phrase, I collect phrases. I love the phrase, no longer does the listing agent or seller determine your how much money you're going to make, your compensation, as a buyer's agent. Like it's, again, and I told you what I did with mine. Guys, I got a closing statement. And again, Chris pointed out too to me that I'm not, how do I know that the listing agent, I think it was a referral. So she was getting 16,000 and I'm getting 10,000. Surprise. Like I knew my percentage. I just didn't think she was getting more. And there's a reason why I did not go up. This is like the fifth property or sixth I've sold between all of them. So now I don't have to buy them a closing gift. But, that's never going to happen again, because I'm going to have a buyer broker agreement with a 0.5% or a full percent, and they're going to make up the difference. I'm not going to let that listing agent determine how much money I make.
Yeah, you shouldn't let the listing agent determine, how much money you're going to make.
No.
Right?
Mm-mm.
That's where we become stronger agents, right? Cost, as we've discussed, cost is only an issue in the absence of value.
Right. That's my other favorite saying.
I mean, it's true, right?
Yeah.
I will gladly pay $5,000 if it's going to make me 50. Right? I mean, that's simple math. But the same $5,000 if it's going to net me $50, it's not really a great deal. Right? I mean, we can all agree on that, right? So and that's why I say those agents, the agents that are struggling now are the ones that have been saying all along, use me as your buyer's agent, you don't pay my commission anyway. Right? And look for the trends, right? You're seeing more and more builders that are throwing out there 4-5% buyer agent commissions. You know, it may only be on a couple of houses because they need to move them fast, but they know that the best way to get a house sold is go to the buyer's agent who already has the buyers. I mean, that makes sense, right?
That's marketing. I mean, think of it as a marketing expense, right?
100%. So we need to have these conversations. Okay. I actually just got a document here that actually came out from Fidelity Title. Actually, Scott sent it over to me, but it has some really cool objections. I'm going to send it to everybody that's here so you guys can go through this stuff. But, you know, realistically, has anybody had any negative conversations, you know, about this? Any of your clients that have been stressed out or questioning it?
Well, I got to tell you and bring it up to you guys so you're aware, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow morning at 10:30 also. Some brokerages are telling their agents to get the broker to buyer's broker signed before they even see the property. They are not letting their agents see the property unless they get that signed. Can't do that. So, and that's again, ignorance, and it's huge brokerage. It's crazy. So just when you get these weirdo things that you don't second guess yourself, call Chris, call me, talk to, you know, whoever you're comfortable with, and know that you're right. You guys, especially the ones on here, are the most educated. So when you get those crazy weirdo things, you know how it's supposed to be handled. Heather has her hand up.
Yeah, Heather, what you got?
I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood. So I know we have to have it, but are you talking about from like the listing agent? Like we want to know how much they're paying? What are you talking about? I'm confused.
Yeah, no. You have to have the buyer broker agreement if you're going to bring a buyer. But let's say, Heather, you have a listing.
Right.
These agents are calling up and saying, is the seller offering concession or compensation? The answer is yes. And if they want to know how much, you can tell them, you know, whatever. But then the agent says, awesome, my broker won't let me take my customer to the house to see it if you don't sign this broker to broker agreement right now.
Oh, BS.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just all kinds of extra. Come on, man.
And steering.
You have to understand, right?
Yes.
It's going to trickle down. This came around really fast, and people are still stirring. They don't know how to handle it, right? And the people that are not paying attention and they are not really looking at what is actually going on, it's confusing. So what people do when it's confusing is they err on the side of caution. So they try and get everything out of the way now, right? But like Sherry said, that's not the way to do this.
Yep.
So,
and I spoke to, I was talking to one of the brokers and they were like, you have to understand, Sherry, we've been dealing with this since March, which we have. And we've dealt with, we've already made mistakes and everybody's asked the silly questions and the what ifs. So now we're pretty much rolling. These other brokerages are just like Chris said, which is crazy. They're like, whoa, what are you talking about? Wait, what? So they got to go through it now. And I guess I'm supposed to be patient.
Yep. So now let's talk a little bit about these buyer brokers, right? Why would a buyer not want to sign one? What's some objections you might get from this? Martha?
I had an objection Saturday when I was trying to show a house, and she said, I want to have somebody go over the buyer broker with me, even though we had done it. Michelle had done it. She refused to sign it and said, I will sign it as soon as I have someone break it down for me. And I said, do you want me to go line by line for you? And she goes, no, I'm going to talk to somebody else. That's been my biggest objection.
Now, was it just at one time, or has it happened before?
This was the one time, but she had this girl that's looking for a house has refused to sign it for Michelle even 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I want to direct your attention to what you're telling me. Right. You're showing a house for another agent, which
Yes.
is Michelle. Okay. So unfortunately, and I have no problems with Michelle, good person, right? But you don't know Michelle and how she actually presented this to her client, right? If it was a couple weeks ago, it probably didn't happen at first. Now all of a sudden we're throwing it in, and then all of a sudden you come along, right? And you have not built an ounce of rapport with her. Okay, so that's where a lot of this concern is coming in, because all of a sudden we went from I don't need it, I don't need it, I don't need it to everybody she's being bombarded with needs this document signed, right? So unfortunately, that's kind of one of those things we need to review that. What I probably would have done is I probably would have explained to her, listen, this is a one-time, done a one-day showing agreement just for that one or two homes that you were going to sell. So it takes that edge off that I'm not committed for 6 months or whatever it is.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Listen, I understand you don't want to be committed. And honestly, and typically for anybody that's been around when I do this type of stuff, I'll make a joke about it. Hey, listen, I'm not sure I want to work with you either. Right? Hey, let's just do this for the one time so I can say I satisfied my requirement. You're protected. I'm protected. And let's go into the house. After that, if you don't like me, it's cool. High five. I'm out. Right? It takes that edge off. Can we agree on that? Now, everybody here has their own personality. So you might say it a little bit different, but ultimately we have to say it. And we have to build that rapport. What is it about this agreement that you're not sure of? Right? Ask her, straight up, what is it about signing this agreement that bothers you? Do you know what bothered her?
She just said that she wanted somebody that she trusted to go over it. And I know she said that Michelle explained it verse for verse. I said, I'd be glad to go over it again. And she goes, no. And I said, well, I can show you this house now because Michelle has agreed to this. Other than that, and I had Michelle's paperwork, so she would have been signing Michelle's, not mine.
Okay.
So
But,
wait, she did say
and I
that
told her that.
Michelle, she said that Michelle explained it, right?
Yes, she explained it.
And it was never signed. It was never signed because you only need the brokerage to sign. Is that she never
No,
signed it yet?
she would not sign it. She just said
Oh.
that she was going to have somebody explain it to her that she trusted.
Well, then that must be her because Michelle's pretty smart and so are you. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
No, I know she explained it.
Okay, good.
And well, let me just change the gear a little bit. Has anybody on here ever been in a situation where there's somebody and just no matter what you do, you just don't get along with them? Yeah, I mean, yeah, Heather's laughing because she doesn't get along with anybody. So I'm just busting Heather's chops. But seriously, I mean, you have those people where they just, there's something about them. You just don't, you don't connect for whatever reason. This is why I talk about, those culminating events, right? Sometimes you have good ones. Sometimes you have bad ones. Sometimes you just don't have any of those with somebody and the relationship never really goes anywhere. It's just kind of an acquaintance. Hey, how you doing? Have a nice day. But when you take that time and you ask those discovery questions, what is it about this agreement that bothers you? Right? Let them talk. This is where I realized this especially when I was up in Maryland, and I would just ask people to tell me about the life that they were looking to lead. And they would start going off. I mean, everybody here, we've discussed this, everybody here has a different lifestyle, different aspirations, different goals, right? What does that life look like for you? Oh, I want my kids to each have their own bedroom and be so comfortable they never move out, right? You're never going to hear me say that, right? But that's not something I would assume, because I don't believe a child should have a king size bed, right? That doesn't make sense to me, right? But I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not something that I believe, right? So if you want to have your kids live with you until they're 40 and give them a king size bed and their own ensuite and a kitchenette, then so be it. Who am I to tell you how to live, right? But I don't know that about you unless I ask that question, right? Tell me about your life. Same thing here. What is it? What is this? What about this agreement concerns you? Well, I don't want to be locked into a long-term contract. Not a problem. We'll make this contract. I tell you what, I'll date it. 1 property and 1 hour. It expires an hour from now. I'll put it. I mean, Shari might yell at me, but you know what? We got an hour to go look.
I'm not going to yell at you.
Okay, well, cool. I would have muted you.
Not this time. Yeah, this time I'm not.
Right? But how do we get over those objections? Give me an hour. Let's go look at it. We're protected. We call it a day. Does that make sense? Daniel.
In that case, if she still wanted to bring it to her whatever friend she wants, she won't see the house. You won't show in the house anyways. I mean, she has to sign the agreement now to go, right?
Yeah, we need to have it signed. But also too, when even if they're not answering a question, they're answering a question. Mm-hmm. If they're telling me that they have somebody else that they want to review it prior to signing a buyer broker agreement, it sounds to me like there's somebody else that needs to be involved in this transaction. Right? Who is it that you turn to make those decisions? Right? For some of us, we felt the pain. You're dealing with a first-time home buyer couple, right? Or a single person, whatever. And all of a sudden you find out that there's a mom or a dad lurking in the background, giving them advice about the first time they bought a house at whatever percentage, and they bought it at, like Martha said, $19,000, right? Why is your first house $300,000? It's irrelevant, right? I have a piece of property listed right now. I had somebody call on it today. Hey, what did the seller originally pay on it? What does that have to do with today's market value? Right? I don't understand why people ask that. Well, what did they pay originally? What does that matter? It has no bearing on today's market value.
I love that. I love when they make the offer and they lowball or whatever, and they go, well, we see they paid this and they probably only put that much, so they should be happy with that. I'm like, yeah, you know what I want to say. I'm like, that's none of your business. And guess what? You should have been the one to buy it at that price instead of the flip back. So, too bad for you.
Yeah. But it's all about having these conversations and creating the value. Does that make sense?
And just a little teaser, I'm going to go over tomorrow. I really went over, and especially since I made the videos, like really internalize the pre-touring agreement, the showing agreement, and then the buyer broker agreement, and what instances that could happen where you would need one over the other. And maybe Martha was one where she needed one or the other. Maybe, of course, yes, please, we want the buyer broker agreement. We want to, you wouldn't take like half a listing or take a listing for 3 weeks necessarily with a seller, but there could be reasons why you need those. And if you just cannot get past the objection, but you still think they're viable, then you have other choices. But if they're objecting just because they're the way they are, just like you said, I know we don't get along with everyone. I know it's a shock, but you're not going to get them to do anything anyway.
Makes sense. Monica, what's going on up there in Maryland with these things? Are you seeing a lot of differences?
Yes, well, we're saying about the same things. We have agents not communicating properly and making the situation a little bit more difficult. People have already started putting listings up with 0% compensation, stuff like that. Just not communicating well with each other or their clients is what it seems like to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Maryland, we've always had buyer broker agreements up there,
Yes.
right? But you're gonna have agents that see this as an opportunity to turn themselves into ultimately a discount brokerage.
Yep.
Right? Hey, you know what? I'm not worried about the buyer's agent. 3%, 2%, whatever it is. Let the buyer agent worry about themselves. Right? We're gonna have that until they realize it doesn't work. Right? We have a few more months, unfortunately, of the pain. All right. Well, everybody gets it figured out, but it will shake out. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, what if you get the objection? My old agent never had me sign one of these. Right? Do you think you might get that? Yeah, you're going to get that. If you have anybody that's been looking for a little while or whatever, all of a sudden we're changing it up on them. So why is the buyer broker agreement so beneficial for the buyer?
Because when you have them sign that, we don't use the word fiduciary duty in Florida because we're mostly transaction brokers. We're not single agents. But once they sign that agreement, they fall under the protection of certain things, such as we're not allowed to tell the seller that they are getting divorced and they'll pay whatever the seller wants for the house. When they start thinking crazy things like that, if they don't when they say those things and they don't have an agreement signed, technically you're supposed to tell the seller like all that stuff, which we're not going to, but that's one thing. It's a form of protection for them, and it also helps them get to know you better, because I don't know about you guys, like when I go on a listing appointment, by the time I'm done, those people whose house we know each other real well. Sometimes the buyers, I don't go through the whole thing like that as much as now I have a buyer presentation and I list the buyer. They're more comfortable with me because I've told them everything that's going to happen, everything I'm going to do for them, and it's in writing. So those two things make it much better for them.
And everyone that's here, you guys all have access to a buyer's a very nicely put together buyer's presentation. You need to be having a consultation, right? When you grab that person, and I truly believe if you don't answer it now, you will answer it later. You're going to answer it one way or the other. So have the buyer's consultation, sit down, have a plan, let them know what's going to happen. All right, listen, great. I'm glad we're going to talk. We need to make sure we get the financing in play. We need to, obviously, you pick your realtor, which I'm glad you sit with me and you found a good one. I'm here to help you, right? And then you lay out, and I always lay out the whole map. And in our buyer's presentation, there's a roadmap of all the things that are going to happen, the inspections, the appraisals, the title work, right? All this stuff. So when your clients are wondering what's going on, right? It's already in the buyer's presentation. Oh, signed buyer broker agreement, right? This is how we secure this and how we protect you, right? It's when they feel that you're throwing in something extra, they think they're being targeted. Does that make sense? Right. Have the presentation. Spend a half hour with them. Even if you're meeting them at the house for the first time, and that's where you're going to meet them, have a short conversation. Have that buyer's presentation, print it out, put it in a folder, put it in a clipboard. Whatever it is that you got to do to get it out there. If you're here by the office doing it, you can bind it. But have that. It gives them something tangible, and they know this is not just I'm shooting from the hip, figuring it out. You're buying your first house. I'm selling my first house. We're going to do this together. Something's going to happen. Right? I mean, when you, even though you may have sold a bunch of houses, if that's the feeling that we put out to them, we know this is a stressful situation. Right. I have a client right now. She is much more sensitive than I have ever encountered before. I wasn't ready for it. So she's had some minor breakdowns, right? And she's fine. But it took me a second. I always say that, you're in a fight, you get punched in the mouth. First time you get punched in the mouth, knocks you off guard. Well, I didn't see some of her objections coming because I didn't think that they were that big of a deal. But for her, it was. Right? But I'll be ready for the next one. Make sense? Now, the bottom line is we just got to get out there and keep having these conversations, right? Have conversations, get it out of your mouths. Because the more you say it, the more comfortable you'll be with it. Lauren, I haven't heard from you yet. How are you making out with all this stuff?
Good. I've only had the one. I didn't do it today for the rentals because we talked about it, and after it was like it's my listing, so I'm not gonna have them sign it. So I've only done one so far.
Yeah, if you're opening up your own listing, you're representing the seller at that point. It's only when you need to move towards, actually becoming a buyer or a buyer.
Actually, I messed that up because I did show you your listing today, and I should have had my girl sign one because I showed my listing the second time, but I showed the studio.
Okay, well, we'll keep that just between us and Shari, so Shari doesn't yell. So.
All right. Dang. Okay. Yeah.
No, you'll be all right.
Your secret's safe.
Eddie, what about you?
I personally think that around November, December, we probably won't even be discussing this, and it's going to be part of life.
And you know what?
Yeah.
November, December, we're going to have a different conversation. It'll be some other thing that they drag up.
I mean, I know it's all important, and I'm trying to say that, but it's just, it's just going to be like, getting dressed every day. You're going to do the same things. You're going to just add this to the list of stuff you have to go through. And there's not going to be a lot of conversation about it. It's not going to be a big deal.
Yep. And Eddie, with you have a lot of young, impressionable people that you're working with. That's a great chance for you to educate some of these young people. And even if they're not going to buy a house right now, you get it out of your mouth and explain to them how this works. You might actually help one of them prepare for the future, or a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to build your business on different age groups, different genders, different everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Anybody have any other concerns with these things? All right, just to reiterate, what happens if you get it, signed at whatever you choose to sign your broker agreement at, and what if you can't get the seller to pay that whole amount? What happens?
You have to discuss with your client, if you want to move forward, and if he will have to pay out of his pocket, or you can trying to discuss with the other side so they can lower the price on the house, right?
Well, price on the house, maybe not because of this, but there'll be other reasons to negotiate that. But just as far as the buyer broker, if you're, just for argument's sake, a half a point away, right? Mm-hmm. The seller's only allowed to or only willing to pay this, and your agreement says that you're going to get paid this. At that point, you're going to have that conversation with the seller, or with the buyer rather, right? And if they're not willing to pay it, what's going to happen? Either the buyer's going to have to pay it, or you're going to have to agree to negotiate it down, and that will be on you and your skill level. Mm-hmm. Okay. For those of you that are creating the value, creating the rapport, showing your worth, right? You're going to have a lot stronger argument to keep that commission and get paid your full value. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like you guys, like a listing presentation. It took me a very long time to have it presented the way it is. And when I used to just discuss compensation and say it was 6%, everyone said, okay. Like it was It was just a part of it. They never, of course, and please, let's not get into all the legal. Yes, of course, I explained how it was going to be separated and all those other things. But the point is that the total value, they saw in my wacky presentation, they were like, wow, this girl really knows what she's talking about. She cares about us, and she's going to take care of us, and she's going to get the best possible offer. She's worth it. So no one said anything. And then those that did, well, can't you do better? And I'd go, all right, if I sell it myself, I'll do it for 5%. Like, they thought I was giving them a bargain. So, I was like, sure, no problem. So these will turn out this way. And I just think that, especially since you guys are here so much, you're going to shine. So they may say to somebody else, I'm not signing that agreement. But when you present it, they're just going to do the same thing. Okay.
I like it. Any questions there?
I just think that, when we're talking about to pay for the job, we're presenting, we're doing the job for the buyers and for the sellers. And if they were talking about how much they're paying and if it's not enough, so in the beginning, they do know approximate how much they're willing to spend to buy the house, for example. So, and they may consider, so it's 3%, and they should consider that risk, so if they like the house, but they may, pay from their side, and to make their life better, we may negotiate and, do this and that, but still, that should be obvious, that's a part of the contract. And maybe it sounds like unusual, but still, that's a part of the job and the part of the contract. You agree for 3%, and if it's will be less, again, negotiation, we save them some money. At least they will seem to them that we save them some money, but they bring the money to the table, so we actually will not. They will just pay through the seller, or they pay by their own. It's pretty much the same story.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that's a money that's will be a deal, and that's a money that pays for the job that made for you, and actually protect and get the best possible deal for you. That costs that amount of money. The way how it will be spent, that's going from this same basket, but from like a different flow, but it still will be the same.
Yep.
That's exactly what Chris said at the beginning. Chris, you said you'd pay $5,000 to save $30,000 or whatever.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Does anybody here drive a car?
Yeah.
Right. Has anybody ever think back to your first car? Was it a hoopty?
Yes.
What the hell is that?
No,
Yes.
no, think about it. Think about it, right? When you're driving, right, that old car, right, and you bring it in for service, and you went to the cheapest mechanic that you could possibly find, and maybe he had a folding chair in the middle of his work area, and he was working late at night with a drop light, and you save some money, but you got like really garbage service, and the car it clanked and it made noises and all that stuff. But now as you start to progress, now you go into like a Mercedes dealer, right? It's the same tune-up, same brakes. You're paying a premium, a whole lot more money, but you go in, they got the nice fancy chairs, people greet you, they bring you coffee, right? It's about the level of service and experience that you're encountering. It's the same way here, right? You're going to have your discount brokerages. You're going to have those people that are going to put it into the MLS. Yeah, give me $500. I'll put it in the MLS. And then you're still fielding calls. Okay. This is a service industry. Shari.
How do you feel about the menu of services where someone says, okay, I want to pay you 1.5%. And then some successful listing agents have come at it and said, okay, which services would you like me not to perform?
Yeah, I've used it. I'm actually working on, I have it. I have a template. I had it almost done. And then with this, we're making some changes, but we're actually going to be including that into our listing presentation. so people have the ability to to pick which package they want.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen it where they actually have it laminated, present it, take it with them, don't ever leave it, and say absolutely, which services, oh well, Joe Schmo is only going to charge you 1.5%. Wow, he's going to get you the photos and the Zillow tour and the drone and help you clean your house and stage and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just not happening.
Yeah, it's all
They'll never
about,
hear from him. Yeah.
it's all about the service, right? So I mean, does that make sense to everybody? So so I don't want to keep beating this up. I think everybody has the point now. We'll send out this agreement here. So please, if you have questions, just let us know. That's what we're here for, is to help out. Sound good?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now that we got that covered, we got a couple minutes. How are you guys doing with getting people on the hook for sales?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, how's your business doing? Is everybody, working with active clients right now? Martha, you're shaking your head.
Yes.
Me too.
I've got people that they all go, I want to buy, and I'm sending them tons of stuff. And I'm asking if I'm sending the right kind of stuff, and they'll go, yes, but they're not ready. I've got 3 or 4 of those that they're just not ready to bite the bullet. And I'll ask, and most of them think the prices are going to come down. And I kind of laugh and say, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, especially with elections coming up. But, I'll just keep sending stuff and we'll hope for the best.
Well, but so I would say we need to ask those questions, right? What is it that is holding them back? Right. I think that the prices are going to come down. Really? Okay. I understand your thought process. Now, especially here in Florida. Okay. We know that we've seen some drastic price increases over the years. But why do you think that they're not going to go down, Martha?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
I just don't see it changing that much with the way the inflation's going, and we've got the election coming up. I think things are going to stay pretty much status quo until at least November.
Okay. Well,
and multiple offers in some areas still.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are multiple offers, but let's look at this on a structural level. Okay. Why is it now, Monica, you have an advantage because you're in the DC area and you're going to have people relocating in that area. So your market's always going to stay somewhat insulated, but especially here in Florida, right? Martha, are you saying something, Monica?
No, I was just prepared in case I had to.
Okay. So like here in Florida, why do I think that prices aren't going to drop? Well, let's look at it. Prior to 2008, which everybody remembers 2008 when we had the collapse, and that affected all of us, right? Because the values dropped. But here in Florida, why did we get so decimated? Well, at that time, it was nothing but retirement homes and vacation homes. And what happens when times get tight? The first thing you cut loose is your vacation home. And after that, when it gets a little bit tighter, you tell your parents to come off of their retirement vacation. Let's consolidate into a multifamily house in whatever home state they're in, which left Florida in a very bad situation. Right? Now, what's happened since 2008? The demographics have changed here, right? They've made it more advantageous for businesses to set up shop here. So we have businesses coming to the area that are providing 6-figure jobs. We have more working people, more working age people here than we ever have. That's why the prices are going up, right? When we look at places that are in the north, right? When they had the shutdowns during COVID and people were locked in their houses because they couldn't go outside, it was 30 degrees outside, and they spent 4 or 5 months inside their house because they couldn't go anywhere. You know what? I've been in Florida the whole time. I could still go out in my backyard. I can barbecue, right? No matter what's going on, right? So it's becoming much more advantageous to be in an area where those regulations are reduced. That's why we still have a ridiculous amount of people moving to Florida, bringing more jobs, keeping our prices at where they're at. So it's not that they're overpriced. They are keeping up with the market that's coming here. Does that make sense?
And
Right.
Chris, so just to reinforce what you're saying, like what I offered was like an opinion. If you know your numbers, how many new people are coming into Florida every
Mhm.
month, every half a year, every year? If you present that to a buyer, statistically true with facts, and be like, it's not stopping. And here's the trend. It's Florida, Texas, Florida, Texas. They keep oscillating between the two. And that hasn't changed.
Yeah, 100%. Daniel?
I had the same conversation actually a couple of days ago with a couple of buyers that they kind of hesitate the same thing. The way I try to deal is you buy the house whenever you're ready. If you're ready right now, don't worry about the future because the houses might go down. Well, why it went down in 2008? People lose jobs. You might lose your job. So now you're not ready. So it doesn't matter what it is. If it's the percentage or the interest rate, or if you're ready right now, if you have enough money, let's find the vehicle so you can get it done. And don't worry about the future. The future is gonna get itself fixed. So, and that's the way I deal with it. So,
Well, yeah, I do agree with you. I would be cautious about telling people not to worry about the future, because the people that are looking at home ownership, they are looking at the future, right? They're looking at the equity, right? And we can still concentrate on the future, even though if something was to happen where we had a price drop, we already know if you're living in a home and you have homestead, right? You get to lock in at a lower tax rate, which you will keep for a very long time if that was to happen, right? If that was to happen, right? And heaven forbid you do lose your job or whatever, there are other jobs here, and there's a lot of programs to help you keep that house while you're there. But regardless, it's still better to be building equity on something you own as opposed to renting, right? I talked with a guy yesterday. He's like, man, I'm gonna buy in 2 years. I'm like, okay, great. Why 2 years? Well, I got a plan. I said, and he says, oh, I know I'm throwing my money away. I've been renting for 8 years. So think about that. All right. So you're talking about you're going to rent for 10 years. I don't know if anybody has a calculator. You want to throw this out there. He's paying, I think he said $2,400 a month. Right. $2,400. Now, granted, it's probably gone up over the years and it'll go up again. But $2,400 a month for 10 years of something that he does not get a penny of it back? Does anybody like throwing money away?
$288,000.
$288,000. You did not get a single tax break on it, right? You did not see a single penny of equity. And when you're done with that lease after 10 years, you have exactly what you started with. Now,
and rent is 100% interest.
Yeah. Now let's look at it, right? With the market going the way it is, you just told me you rented for 8 years, and I've had this conversation with many people, right? Especially, there's something about this 10-year market keeps coming up. But let's look back at what was going on 10 years ago, right? 2014. If you would have bought a house, either in, I don't care whether it's Maryland, Florida, or most places in the country, where would you be sitting right now in equity and value on your property? Right? What was happening in 2014? Anybody remember?
Short sales.
100%. Those short
what I
sales
was
were out
doing.
there. People were picking up. I had a friend, right? I bought my house in 2006. Okay. And it was a split. What?
Sorry about that. Yeah, me.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, look, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I paid $400,000, right? And it was a split foyer. It was a very plain house, right, on 3 acres. Now, at that time, it was in Calvert County, which some of you know, right? It was $390 is what I paid, And I got it. What was a good price for that house, right? However, 2012 rolled around. I had a friend of mine bought this massive colonial in Hughesville on like 7 acres for $300,000, right? Because of the market. It's all about, obviously, when you buy. I bought it at a bad time, yes, without a doubt. But if I would have had that house from 2006, and if I still had it today, it's worth a hell of a lot more than what I sold it for back in the day. Right? So 10 years from now, you're still going to see those gains. Can we all agree on that?
Mm-hmm.
So, the long-term play, right, for real estate investing, not speculating. I'm not talking about flippers. That's a whole different game. But the investing is a proven strategy for building wealth. Sound good?
Yeah, Chris, I was talking with someone today who helps investors buy, with single family homes and stuff. And the play now is, she's like, I don't know what these investors are thinking their return. The return's about 10%, a little more cash on cash, but the long-term game, it used to be, we were saying a few years ago, it's a 5, 6, 7 year hold. Now we're saying 10-year hold on these properties, and it's going to skyrocket those 10 years. It's all about the equity, and obviously some cash, all positive. Everything pays for itself, and a little bit of cash, but it's the equity and owning something that's not hurting you or costing you anything, and that's where the game's going to be realized.
Yep. So any last minute thoughts from anybody?
I just wondering what made people think that their rent will stay the same over the 10 years. I can't get it. Why people think that it will be the same? Not even that he lost.
It depends. It depends on where you come from. If you especially with a lot of our people here, they're coming from the north, where fixed rent was a thing for a long time. It doesn't exist anymore, right?
That's a freak.
But
it doesn't exist.
It's all about mindset. So, but we got to bring people to where they are at. Those people that were on those rent controlled apartments, they lived in slums until they tore the buildings down. Right? It just is what it is. So anyway, I know it's 7 o'clock, guys. I really appreciate everybody coming on here. If you haven't done so and you wouldn't mind doing us a review for the team, it would greatly help us out. For those of you on the team, you can copy that link and send it to your clients. Especially if you have a son that just bought from us, that would be awesome. Not calling anybody out, Martha and Heather, but but yeah, no, help us out. Those reviews help us stay at the top of the searches online. So, and anybody has your personal one, send it to me, and I'm happy to do one for you guys as well. So let's keep on point. Let's be the professionals that the industry needs us to be right now, and we will come out on top. Sound good?
Yay!
All right, everybody. Let me know if you need anything. Great night, and yeah, tomorrow's going to be just as busy. So let's get it done, and I will see you all here soon.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night,
Bye
everybody.
bye.
Bye, everybody.